Well, News Corp polling suggests Australians are broadly in favour of nuclear energy. 923 people across the country were asked if they believe nuclear power has a place in Australia's future energy mix. 60% said yes, 40% said no. 47% of responders say they would be happy with a nuclear reactor being built in their state or region. But only 38% of those surveyed say it would make them more likely to vote for the coalition. Joining me live now is the Nationals leader, David Littleproud. David, what do you think about that? Few mixed results might not get you over the line.
Well, it's about doing the right thing by the country, and that's why we've taken this principled position of strong leadership. This all-renewables approach is what people are feeling come out of their wallet at the moment. And so we have to have baseload power. You can't go to an all-renewables approach if you want to have manufacturing in this country, you want to keep the lights on. But what it also shows, if you drill down into the regions that are the hosts of these nuclear power plants that we're proposing, there is support. There is over 50% support because they have energy literacy. And if you drill down even further in some of the polling the Nationals have done, that was released even in Clare, where 63% of people in Lithgow and in Bathurst and Orange want one, is they understand it's not just about jobs, it's actually about long-term reduced energy prices and a reliable energy grid because they have energy literacy. And so that's why, and what they've also concerned about is having our future tied up with transmission lines, wind turbines and solar panels laid all over our landscape, which also hasn't been taken into account by any of the experts about how much of our food security be lost, how much that'll cost you in driving up your food prices. So we see a future for regional Australia. We want to have a zero emissions future, and let us do it through nuclear energy with gas and CCS and some renewables, but in an environment it can't destroy.
I mean, what this has exposed as well, yes, renewables will do part of the job and they will be eventually cheaper, but we still need that baseload power for when the sun doesn't shine, the wind doesn't blow and batteries aren't quite up to scratch. But the problem here as well, David, is that there has not been any bipartisanship on energy policy and the future direction of energy for around 20 years. In many ways, that has contributed to the price problems we're having now. So with that in mind, this is a bold approach. You take it to the next election. If you don't get up, what's next? Is there going to be some kind of truce, détente on energy? Because that might help.
Well, they're feeling that now. Anthony Albanese promised a reduction in your energy bill by $275. Yep. He spent $6.5 billion just alone from the Commonwealth, beyond what the states have also added, in trying to reach that in subsidies. And in fact, instead of going down by 275, they've gone up by over 700. And that's because he's ripped supply out of the grid. And supply, particularly with things like gas, where they demonise gas, and I can speak with experience, I lost a $1 billion project through Cenex that was going to put 60 petajoules in the first tranche, another 60 petajoules after that, which is 10% of the East Coast market, all stripped away because they demonise with safeguards mechanism, codes of conduct, price caps. You need to drive prices down by increasing supply. And that's why we're saying we're going to the Australian people seeking a mandate to not put all our energy eggs in one basket, not to have concentration risk, to spread them, and to buy insurance for our country into the future, not only in terms of challenges that might come with gas down the future, but then have that with firming power that they're with nuclear, as well as some renewables into the system. And that's why a mixed approach is a sensible approach, and the rest of the world's doing it, and why wouldn't we?
It is a mixed approach has to be the way forward. Even if you get to 80% renewables, there's still that 10 to 20% of, what feeds into the grid to stabilise those renewable power. But this plan, 7 nuclear reactors, do we have any idea about what percentage of it might feed into the grid? Will 7 reactors provide 10% of our power? Will it be more or less?
Yeah, look, and we'll announce that with the costings in a future date, and we're going to be upfront with the Australian people so they understand that mix about what that transition of some of our coal-fired power stations to nuclear will look like, along with gas and carbon capture storage, along with renewables. And that's about getting the right mix and making sure that you have that with the technology that's available while driving down prices in the long term. Because this isn't an investment for the next 10 to 20 years, which is what this government's just working on. This is one that's going to be there for 80 to 100 years. So there's a significant difference about the long-term investment in building that capacity, building that insurance into our grid for all the mixes to work, to build redundancy about something going wrong in our grid, because we do have that baseload power that is there 24/7.
Yeah. Okay, so I know these details are to come, and look, I actually think that's fair enough. This is a massive policy announcement. We do need to know the cost and what it will provide. But in announcing, 7 reactors as the central part of your plan, you must have some idea about what that will provide in terms of capacity. I mean, it's not going to be acceptable to the Australian public if you're announcing 7 reactors at a cost of $120 billion and it provides 2% of our power.
Yeah.
So is it going to be more like 2 or more like 20 or more?
And that's why we'll be upfront and show those details about costings and capacity. It's important to show what that mix will be. But we wanted to make sure we took the Australian people on this journey with us, and the polls are showing that that's the sensible approach to do this, rather than just lumping them with all the data and all information and not showing respect to those 7 communities. We've said for a long time they'll be where existing coal-fired power stations are, but now we've narrowed it down after some geotechnical assessments that these are the locations that will be the locations of our nuclear power plants into the future, is then starting that process of consultation and engagement. And then the next day, and also making it clear to the Australians that they'll own this, rather than a multinational coming for just 15 to 20 years, taking whatever dollar they can and then going home with it. We want it to stay here. And then the next stage will be around those details about the costings, about the mix, and making sure that Australians have comfort about an integrated energy system that gives them reliability, affordability, but also lives up to our international commitments of reaching net zero by 2050.
David, you've said time and time again that the cost of living crisis is now. People are paying too much for energy. Your plan does nothing to reduce their bills in the next 10 years, and that's kind of being kind. Wouldn't you agree?
No, what we've been saying from the very start, in fact, the very first media conference and even interview I gave to insiders was about gas and about lifting supply. And you can only drive down prices if you increase supply. And so gas will have to be a very big player in that transition, in making sure, as the states have actually had to also acknowledge, they've had to keep coal-fired power stations going longer to keep that baseload power there. So there is a pathway to this, but you've got to increase supply now. And you can get gas on a lot quicker than building a coal-fired power station or a nuclear power plant. Much of the infrastructure is there, and the companies and the investment is there, but they've been scared off because of the demonisation by Chris Bowen and Anthony Albanese. They've had an epiphany that now they might need some gas, that they're trying to play nice with the gas companies, but that means that we're looking at the headlines already, where we could, if we have a cold winter, Victoria could be out. I mean, this is because of the demonisation of this government. You could have had plenty of supply put into the system already.
All right, let me just ask you one question, because I'm about to speak to the AMA about vaping. The AMA has accused you of prioritising tobacco companies over the health of Australians. Your response?
Well, look, I respect, and we don't discredit the science nor the health impacts of smoking or vaping, but the expertise of the AMA ends there. They don't have any expertise in regulating, policing or controlling borders. And the lived experience, if they dare to go outside of surgery, is that we're seeing kids get on these things because the genie is out of the bottle. And if you want to look at experience, we want to have tighter regulation about only allowing those 18 plus to be able to have it. Controlling the content, making sure the packaging, licensed outlets that do this. We saw that with cigarettes. We saw an 80% reduction in juvenile usage when a former Labor government brought that in, and all credit to them. That's how we actually attack this and make sure the excise doesn't go to organised crime, but goes back into regional health and goes back into education of young people about the harms of nicotine. So we don't challenge the science nor the health of this. We're just saying the AMA's expertise finishes there, and they should let the rest of us get on with the job of regulating to protect particularly children.
Okay, David, thank you. Good to talk to you. See you soon.
Good to see you.